Hello, my name is Glenn Monroe and I own Brain Diesel. And in this video today, I want to help solve a problem Canadians may be having because as we have stopped the production of the penny, we now have a rule where we round off to the nearest nickel. Now, if you're paying by check, debit, or credit, you just pay whatever the total is. But if you're paying by cash, in that case only, it rounds to the nearest nickel. So right now, if you're doing a manual invoice for somebody and they're paying by cash, you have to do the rounding. Let's get rid of that manual function and get Excel to do it for it. So this is the project we're going to tackle today. So somebody's paying $9.99 plus the tax. In my province, it's 13%, so that's the calculation. And I'm just going to total that up, and there we go. So this is great for all my regular purchases. But now what I want to do is I want to round it off to the nearest nickel. So how we're going to round to the nearest nickel is a couple little tricks. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this number and I want to multiply it by 20. And I want to multiply it by 20 to make it really big. And once it's really big, then I'm going to round it off to the nearest dollar. And then I'm going to divide it by 20 to bring it back down again. So if I take a number and multiply by 5 and divide by 5, I get the same number. Here I'm going to multiply by 20 and then divide by 20. The reason I'm going to multiply and the reason I want to divide a dollar by 20 is if I divide a dollar by 20, I get a nickel. So what I'm going to do is take this number, make it 20 times as big, round it to the nearest dollar, and then divide by 20. And that's the trick to it. So here's multiplying by 20. It's a huge number, way too big. I need to round that off, which I have shown in prior videos. I simply do round this number, whatever this calculates to, comma, 0 decimal places, and now it's rounded to the nearest dollar. Well, that's way too high. In fact, it's 20 times too high. I better go back into my formula and now divide that by 20. And now you'll see it rounds to the nearest dollar. So any number I put in here, it will always be, it rounds not to the nearest dollar, to the nearest nickel. So there's 90 cents, there you go, 55 cents. It's always going to be, it doesn't matter what my price is here, it will always round to the nearest nickel. So that's great. Now, if this is my invoice I use for clients, and I have this formula written, well, that's fine on its own, but I want to have one form that if you pay by check or by debit or credit, that it has that invoice, but if you pay by cash, it does the other. So I want to have this function that it will round to the nearest nickel if it's cash, but only if it's cash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a field here called cash, and next to it, I'll put in an X. And if there's an X there, then I want it to do the rounding. If there's no X, no rounding, just do the math. So I'll take the X out here. And what I'm going to do now is I need to put an if statement in here. Now this is my big formulas we're going to write. If that cell there equals X, and I have to put the X in quotation marks for it to count, comma. So if there's an X there, then I want to do all the stuff I've already shown you. I want to take the number, multiply by 20, round it off, divide by 20, bang, round to the nearest nickel. So that does that. Comma at the end. So at the end, if it's not an X, if it's empty, if it's anything else, I don't want to round by 20. In that case, I just want to add up the ones above it. So in that case, just simply add it up. So right now, oh, and I need another closing bracket. There we go. So now, my formula, which is, let me see if I can make it a little bit easier to read for you there. Forgive the wrap. So there's the formula. If that cell has an X in it, then round or do the rounding trick to get to the nearest nickel. Otherwise, if there's no X, then just add up the numbers. So there's no X. It's simply adding up the numbers. As soon as I throw an X in there, it's now rounded to the nearest nickel. 757 to the nearest nickel, or, oh, actually, that one worked out either way. 749, there we go. So that's not the nearest nickel. It should be 846 or 845 if I throw an X in there. So that's how to build it. Couple steps. This is what I do. I offer a class called Power Formulas, and in Power Formulas, we would cover off the if statement and round in greater detail. Not round in greater detail, but the if statement definitely we spend more time on because there's a lot you can do with that. So that's my Power Formulas class, which I do offer locally in Moncton, or I can do one-on-one with you online anywhere in the world. Just check out braindiesel.ca. Otherwise, subscribe to my channel, watch for tips, and thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Stay pumped. Bye now.